My guest on this week's episode of Suds Search is Greg Gifford, SearchLab's Vice President of Search. Greg is a man who needs no introduction. He's an internationally recognized conference speaker and one of the most popular presenters in the industry. It would be more concise to list the conferences he hasn't spoken at. He's well known in the SEO community, presenting at conferences like MozCon, SMX, PubCon, and Ungagged. He's a popular speaker within the automotive industry, presenting at conferences like NADA, Digital Dealer, and the Kane Automotive Conference. And he is a rock star overseas at conferences like Brighton SEO, SearchLab London, In Orbit, and Learn Inbound. Greg and I work closely together building SearchLab. He has been integral to all the success the agency has had in the 3 years he's been here, including helping us win 2 U.S. Search Awards, being listed on the Inc. 5000 list, and being named Microsoft's Global Emerging Partner of the Year. This is his second appearance on Suds Search. It was great to do it in person this time at Old Irving Brewing. Greg recently collaborated with the leadership team at Places Scout and collected over 1.6 million data points to study how 3 popular local SEO verticals are performing. Tune in, especially if you work with car dealers, lawyers, or cannabis dispensaries. Grab something cold to drink and join me for a special episode with Greg Gifford. We'll discuss some independent research that shows exactly how few businesses are taking advantage of Google posts. We'll talk about some counterintuitive things that the research showed, and we'll spend a little time talking about Greg's belief in ghosts and haunted houses. Greg Gifford, welcome to Suds Search. How you doing?
I am good. Happy to be back.
All right, it is good to have you back. First thing I've got to get out of the way, you've got some new ink.
I do.
I want to see if we can get a camera angle of this alien tattoo. Is there a camera that we can show it? I mean, that is, of the ones you've gotten, is that like a favorite now, or is that?
It's pretty epic, man. Especially because, like, it's hard to rotate my arm for the camera, but, like, the tail comes out and wraps all around, and, like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. And now you're stuck with me because with 2 hand tattoos, I'm probably not getting a job anywhere else.
Are you going to get a face tattoo at some point?
I will not do face. Well, okay. I would say I won't do face or neck or head, but 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said I wouldn't do hands or fingers, and I'm doing my fingers in October. So yeah, I probably won't do my face though.
Yeah, Post Malone, let him do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you've been speaking at a bunch of conferences about some research we did in partnership with local Places Scout.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. When I say that, it's mostly I'm taking a little bit more credit. You just reached out to your friends at local Places Scout, and the findings were really interesting. So before we kind of get into those findings, help me set the stage of what was the research, what were you hoping to find out, and how did local Places Scout fill in those gaps?
It's actually Places Scout, by the way.
I'm sorry.
But it all started back in January. Those guys got to be on a TV show, and they needed a couple of, like, expert interview people that would be on, you know, like the cutaways to interviews that weren't employees. So they had me and Joy come out, and as we were sitting around talking, I mentioned to them, yeah, we want to do this research project, and they said, dude, throw anything our way, we'll pull it for free.
I love it.
And so we figured it would be really cool to look across 3 verticals, but really study each vertical independently because we know that Google treats verticals differently. So we ran over 85, well, we ended up with over 8,500 Google business profiles. So we did car dealers, personal injury attorneys, and cannabis dispensaries. And we did them in various cities. The car dealer and attorney cities were all the same. The cannabis ones, we only did it where recreational cannabis is legal. And we looked at only at Google business profile rankings, so map pack rankings, and we went 1 through 20 for each of the keyword phrases. So we ended up with 8,500 plus profiles and over 1.6 million data points. So we are able to start slicing and dicing and seeing interesting things. And we got the data, I think, less than a week before I had to turn in my slides for Local U in Denver. So it was like a mad scramble to try to figure out what we could pull out that was useful data, because it just took longer to get the data than we thought it was going to take, mainly because I kept coming back and going, hey guys, it'd be really cool if we could do this. And they said, oh yeah, we can add that in, and then they would rerun it. But we saw some really interesting trends that a lot of the stuff wasn't surprising in cannabis and in legal, where you would expect the guys that rank number 1 have more of or better of whichever metric we're looking at than the guys that rank 10 or 20. But interestingly enough, with car dealers, it was almost the opposite, which I thought was kind of weird, because you would expect the guys that have more reviews would rank higher.
Yes.
The guys with more photos, the guys that put more effort would rank higher, that are doing things the right way. And it's really the opposite. But I think because with auto dealers, it's a lot more specific, and if you're looking for a Ford dealer in a city, there's only a certain number of Ford dealers, so they're all going to show up, and they're all going to be in that top 20. The guys that show up at the top are showing up because they've got better content on their site and better links on their site, because in automotive, you have that weird setup where everybody's going to be on the same website providers. They're going to be on one of, realistically, they're going to be on one of 3 website providers, and they're going to have the same content as thousands of other dealerships everywhere else. And if you look at how they're doing things on GMB or GBP, and I also paired this with, we have a scoring matrix that you well know that we use to score car dealers on website content, inbound links, GBP, and reviews. Pairing it together with that, it's really clear that the guys that rank well are the guys that have awesome, unique content and put effort into actual SEO. The reason that the reason that things are inverse and the guys that rank lower have what we would consider to be better signals on GBP just independently is because dealers know that GBP is really important. They all understand it's that first interface with potential customers. So when they're not ranking well, they go and put more effort into the GBP. So they're getting, or they try, or they think, they hear, reviews make a difference. And they make the mistake of thinking, I can pick 1 or 2 of all the signals that are being considered and just go after that one thing and it makes a difference. And it's not thinking we need to do everything right. And they're just doing one little bit right. So then you see the guys in the bottom have way more reviews. The guys in the bottom have put more photos in. The guys in the bottom are doing posts more often. The guys in the bottom are doing more with Q&A. Not that Q&A influences ranking, but you can see across all these signals, whether it's something that influences ranking or doesn't influence ranking, the guys that rank lower are putting more effort into their profiles than the guys at the top, because the guys at the top don't have to.
Yeah, I get it. Makes perfect sense. I think one of the things, too, that was interesting was the choice to include cannabis dispensaries in the study in the first place. So we're, at SearchLab, very interested in cannabis dispensaries. I think for local SEO...
Some of us might just really be interested in cannabis, if we're going to be honest.
So for... here's the thing for cannabis dispensaries, they can't advertise on Google. So they can't throw money at the problem the way that a car dealer could or a lawyer could just spend a ton of money on ads. This is a loaded question, as you said, but what made you very interested in cannabis dispensaries as one of the topics?
Did you phrase it that way on purpose?
I did.
That's funny. I see what you're doing there. No, I mean, I enjoy the cannabis, but really it's kind of a unique situation where there really aren't a lot of businesses out there that they can't do anything else but SEO. So I think that bit is interesting, and a lot of agencies are trying to break in and do digital marketing for cannabis dispensaries, but it's hard to break in because it's like, how many link building outreach emails we get all the time, we just ignore them. Same thing with them. They've just got everybody coming in asking, hey, can we do your SEO? Can we do your SEO? And it's just like pointless, and it's clearly just a cash grab. But I think for us, there's a lot of people that enjoy partaking at the company, and I think there's more of a genuine interest in trying to help the dispensaries than just trying to make a cash grab.
I agree.
So, it's still tough to just cold call or just show up because the decision maker isn't the person at the dispensary. Right. So we've got, this will be airing later, but the whole reason I'm here today in Chicago is because we have our first cannabis conference this weekend that I'm speaking at, and I kind of feel like my speaking style is probably going to go over pretty well. So that should really get our foot in the door, and I think it's a really great opportunity for us to break into a new vertical.
All right, I love it. I want to get into some of the findings. So one of the things you found about cannabis dispensaries was that nobody, single digits % were actually answering Q&A and taking advantage of posts. So virtually nobody's doing this. What are they missing out on?
And so the really crazy thing is when you start comparing the 3 verticals, looking at and again, Q&A doesn't influence ranking, but it's still an important conversion point because it's going to attract more people. And customers aren't going to go to your website or call you to ask a question. They're going to ask it there. When we look at car dealers versus attorneys versus cannabis dispensaries had a much higher average number of questions per profile. I don't remember that number, but I want to say.
But kind of surprising, yeah.
It
that
was like
so much more.
10 versus 3 versus 4 or 5. Like, it was more than double what the other ones had.
Right.
But if we're looking at, and it ended up being like 2,800-ish cannabis dispensaries. So if we're saying 2,800 with an average of 10 questions per dispensary, that simple math puts us at 28,000 questions, and only 1% of those questions were answered by the business.
Crazy? Yeah.
So it's all of these businesses that are getting questions asked by potential customers, and they're not being answered. And that's just a massive opportunity. And it's not really an SEO opportunity because it's not going to influence their ranking, but that's people are asking a question, can I do this here? Can I buy this here? And they're not answering, and they might end up going to a competitor where you could have caught them if you'd have done that. Same thing with posts. Posts don't influence visibility, but they are a conversion point. They do help you stand out from competitors. And if you put something compelling there, if you put something that is offer focused, some sort of a special or something to let people know about what's going on, and optimize that thumbnail the right way so that people will click it to see whatever the full post is, you're going to stand out, you're going to get more customers, and nobody's doing it.
All right. Well, I loved this finding from the study. So it makes some sense. Dispensaries are a newer business, I guess, especially here in Chicago. It's only been legal for a little while. Lawyers aren't. Lawyers have been there, done that. They've probably spent a lot of money in SEO. So it seems like they should kind of have their act together. One of the things I couldn't believe was that 22% of lawyer profiles were using UTM parameters. So that means almost like 80% are not taking advantage of UTM parameters. What are they missing out on? Why is that important?
And so that's another thing that doesn't really influence how you're going to rank, but it's important if you're doing digital marketing or if you just care about your business to have better data about how people are finding you online. And attribution is sometimes kind of broken with Google Analytics, especially with mobile devices. iPhones don't pass referral information to Google Analytics because of privacy concerns. So most people out there think that direct in Google Analytics is people that typed in your URL or used a bookmark, because that's what everybody's been told. Really, it's Google's black hole of, we don't know where the hell this came from, so we're just going to say direct because that means there is no referral information. So if you put the UTM tracking on that website link, it will force Google Analytics to correctly attribute it as organic traffic. So all of these people out there, and lawyers, compared to most other verticals, are the most diligent with local SEO. They all get it. They're so competitive, and they're all really into SEO, and they all want to be at the top. Yet there's so many of them that aren't doing it, and they don't realize what they are getting, what they're not getting, and what's working, what's not, because they don't have the ability to track what's happening, or to fully track what's happening there.
And it's hard to be strategic if you don't have the data, so I love it. The third industry, car dealers. Here's what comes to mind. We work with a lot of car dealers. The first thing that comes to mind that's different between the other two are departmental listings, like nested listings for car dealers. You found that a little over 40% of car dealers did not separate their departmental listings. So just a little bit less than half didn't do this very essential thing. Why is that important? This is a really, really big deal in automotive.
Yeah, so Google has bent the rules around Google Business Profiles, or changed them specifically for a couple of different verticals, and car dealers are one of those verticals, where typically to be eligible to have a Google Business Profile, you have to have separate signage, separate entrance, separate staff. Car dealers don't have, I mean, technically there is a door that you go through in the service department, but it's part of the same building. It's the same receptionist up front answering the phones. So it's same staff, no separate signage, no separate entrance, but they let car dealers have that as a separate business center because it is a totally different thing.
Yep.
You don't have to buy a car to be able to go in and do service. You don't have to do service to be able to go in and buy parts. So dealers are allowed to have separate departments for these various business centers. One of the most important elements of this is we know that reviews and categories have a massive influence on your visibility in searches. Those are things that do affect how you rank. If you just have one profile for the entire dealership, all your reviews go on that profile, which is great. Your review count skyrockets. But if we look at customer behavior, typically dealerships aren't going to get bad reviews on the sales side of things. Now, lately, kind of yes, because with the whole chip shortage and inventory shortage, customers are upset that they have to pay over MSRP, so they leave some bad reviews. But in general, somebody just bought a car, they're happy, they're going to leave a good review.
Yep.
Service is where you get all your bad reviews because people are mad they had to wait, they didn't have an appointment, or service did something wrong,
whatever,
or I read one, I was working on the scoring matrix just now as you were doing other interviews, and they had a bunch of bad reviews, and one of them was a guy he dropped his car off in the morning, came back at 4 o'clock to pick his car up, and they couldn't find his car because the service tech had taken it for a test drive, but he's gone for an hour. So just went on a joyride in the guy's car. So that's why you're going to get all your bad reviews. So if you isolate those service reviews to your service profile, yeah, sure, that score's not going to be as great, but it doesn't drag down your review score on the sales side, which is the important part because that's where you're making a lot of money. And then from the category perspective, there are 10 category slots in a Google Business Profile. There are more than 10 categories that apply to sales, more than 10 that apply to service, and more than 10 that apply to parts. So you have to be strategic in what you want to pick. If you have one profile, you're at best doing 30%, 40%, and you're missing out on the opportunity to show up for a lot of searches that you would have shown up better for had you only had sales-oriented categories, parts-oriented categories, and service-oriented categories.
All right, I'm going to tell one more on car dealers that I was surprised by. So you can select many categories for a car dealer. So if you're a Ford dealer, you can have Ford dealer, you can have car dealer, you could have used car dealer, all in the same category selection. You've been sitting at auto conferences for years, recommending fill out as many categories as are relevant. 27% of people pick one category.
Yeah.
Was that surprising to you?
That was really surprising. The other thing that was really surprising, so the keywords that we ran, we could probably get our editor to throw the slide up that shows it because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I know we did Ford dealer, Toyota dealer, Jeep dealer, maybe Mercedes, I don't remember what the other one was, and then used car dealer. And something like 20% of the 2,700 car dealer profiles had the generic car dealer as their primary category. And we all know that whatever your primary category in is a little more weighted in the algorithm, so it helps you show up a little bit better for searches related to that. It was odd that not just me, everyone else in automotive tells dealers pick whatever brand you sell as your primary category, and so many of these dealers just had the most generic thing they could have there. And then a lot of them also only had one, and there was a significant number of dealers that had car dealer, and that was it. And it's just crazy.
Well, I love it. And you said at the beginning there were some surprising things and there were some counterintuitive things. Of all the data you found, was there anything that we haven't mentioned now that really surprised you that we should point out from this study?
Yeah, the review count was really odd.
Yeah,
like significantly
right?
more reviews for the guys at number 20 than the guys at number 1, which was really odd.
I love it. All right, well, I want to shift gears. You usually ask the no context questions, so I'm going to try out a few on you.
All right.
Greg Gifford, do you or do you not believe in haunted houses, that there are actual spirits in haunted houses?
Oh man, we're going deep on this. We're now sharing with the world that I partake in cannabis and I completely believe it is true. There are ghosts. I used to live in a haunted house, so legitimately ghosts are real.
All right, what is the last great movie you saw?
Whoa. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once was mind-blowingly awesome.
Quick.
Really good. Also, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was phenomenal and way better than I thought it would be. And the Predator prequel, Prey,
what'd you think?
was actually excellent too.
Awesome.
But Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is the best thing I've seen in a very long time.
Why you say the golden age of movies? 1985, 1980s?
1985 is the golden year for American film comedy.
Why?
Because there were so many. So when I do my presentations, there's always a movie theme, and there's always one movie for every year in the last 50 years. And whenever I do a comedy theme, I've got 36 movies just from 1985. And there's more, but there's some really obscure ones, and you start bending the rules about whether it's really a comedy or not, because maybe it's really just a drama that there's some laughs, so you could count it, and maybe you can't. But if you're just looking at straight up comedies, there's a ton. And then if you start including all the sex comedies, because that was when they started doing all the the softcore sex comedies, there was a ton of those. Like, it was just a great year. But that's when we had Ghostbusters was 84, so it was the year before, but it started with Ghostbusters. You got Ghostbusters, you got Goonies, you got Breakfast Club, you got Back to the Future, you got Weird Science, you got all these just insanely amazing classic comedies that came out in 85.
All right, last, I'm gonna try and see if I can challenge you a little bit. Great. So we're filming this in Chicago. Many movies have been filmed here. What is your favorite Chicago-based movie of all time?
Oh, it's got to be Ferris.
Ferris Bueller's Day
It's got to be Ferris. Like, that's also, oh, no, that is not true. That is not true. The Untouchables is the best.
Untouchables.
The Untouchables is
Elliot
the best.
Ness? Yeah.
Yeah, like, I actually just watched that the other night with my kid, and he'd never seen it, and it blew his mind, and he was, like, bawling when Sean Connery got shot. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I want to point out you'll be speaking at CanaCon. You'll be speaking all over the place. If people want to know where you're speaking or follow you or get in touch with you, how should they do so?
So I think this episode's coming out maybe in September-ish, but So we've got CanaCon now. I've got Digital Summit, Seattle Digital Summit Raleigh in September. I'm speaking at the Utah DMC, which is like a regional digital marketing group. I'm speaking at that in September. I'm doing an NADA 20 group in September. In the first week of October, I'm heading back over to the UK to do Brighton SEO. I come right back from that, and I have 2 back-to-back conferences in Vegas, so Driving Sales Executive Summit and Digital Dealer. Then I go home for a week, and then I go back to Vegas again for SMASH, which is a senior healthcare conference. That's October. November, I've got a couple, but I honestly don't remember what they are. December, I'm going to Bali, which just so happens to fall on my 50th birthday, so that works out really nicely.
Good planning, yeah.
And so lots of stuff, and then a bunch of stuff next year, so I'm all over. Like, I'll probably end up doing 35, 36 conferences this year in person.
Amazing, amazing. So frequent flyer miles are
getting up there.
Rebounding. Okay, I like it.
Paying for my wife's ticket to Bali.
There you go. Last thing, Local Search Tuesdays. Talk to the folks about it. Where can they see it if they are not aware?
So across various agencies I've worked at for the last 9 years now, I've done a local SEO-focused weekly tip video. And once I got here, we called it Local Search Tuesday, so it comes out every Tuesday. I haven't missed a Tuesday since I started working here, which is getting tough. But yeah, so every Tuesday, it's typically short 3 to 5 minute videos on a specific tip to help people be better at showing up in local searches. But I also will share longer videos when I'm sharing a recording of my presentation from a conference. Like, this will be airing after I showed this Local Search Tuesday, but we're filming this on a Thursday. We have CanaCon on Friday and Saturday, and next Tuesday's video is my recording of my session from CanaCon. So there's a lot of really helpful stuff to watch in there.
I love it.
And goofy stuff, because I shoot it in front of a green screen, so my not so evil clone comes out and I'll have conversations and we do goofy stuff and the whole sperm thing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And occasionally Max makes an appearance. I love it.
Yep.
So, well, awesome. Well, I'm going to give you a cheers. I'll sign off for now, but we'll be back next week with another episode of Suds Search. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks for having me.